Last week, the Austrian government announced another national lockdown and that they would be mandating the COVID-19 jab for the entire population. We have a regular contributor, Stephen Whybrow. He's in Austria and he joins us now. Stephen, it's been 6 days. What's the reaction been like in the country?
Well, I joined the demonstration in Vienna on Saturday, which was the biggest demonstration in the history of Austria.
Fantastic.
We heard there were about 200,000 people there, and apparently I have heard the police said that there were 350,000 people. So it was people coming together from all areas, and everyone's standing up right now. And it just goes to show, as I like to point out, how do you know that an awakening is happening? By seeing the quickening of the agenda. That's how it works, because it manifests as a loss of control of the ruling class that is really governing the country of Austria and also governing the entire world system.
It certainly feels like that it's almost lashing out a little bit because it feels like the tide is turning. The polls say in Austria that it's 50-50 in terms of who agrees with the mandate and who disagrees with the mandate. Would you say that was an accurate figure from what you're seeing in the country?
Well, I would never believe a statistic that I've myself not checked.
No.
And the polls is just another indication of the public deception that is taking place every single second of our life. The key point in all of this is that it doesn't matter what the public thinks or what any mass, may that be 70%, may that be 30%, and may that be 99% think. It's about what you think. And this is why I delve deep into the nature of reality and the principles of natural law, which tell you that when you are a sovereign being, no one can impose anything on you. Because what the dark occult priest class, okay, the satanic networks in the background I'm talking about, what they don't want you to know is that they can never break free will. The only thing they can do is impose a much stronger mind control program on you to believe that there is no way out, and that now the next step is along the line of their agenda being imposed on us. But the truth of the matter is, if I am a sovereign being and my heart is beating on a different vibe, they cannot impose anything on me. And that light shines through. This is what nature, this is what evolution really supports. And as the great philosopher Socrates said, this is what we should do now. Education is not the filling of a vessel and getting more and more information. It is the kindling of a flame. And that flame is being kindled right now in Austria and all across the world, and it is unstoppable. And as I've said in my videos, when you go onto my channel, Austria is going to be the first domino that falls. And we are here right now. I'm speaking to you from a place called Saint Corona in Austria. Go figure. So there's something very mystical about the reality that we're experiencing. And we right now do not know how this is going to continue. What I can share with you is that them forcing vaccination on the population of Austria is going to backfire on them big time and quickly, I say so.
I can't disagree. From what you're seeing on the streets then of Austria, are people kind of going with what you're saying there, that they're being sovereign beings, they're refusing to lock down, they're just, because that's how I think personally. I think if someone can mandate you to do something, that doesn't mean anything unless you agree to do it. So is that what's happening? Are people just going, do you know what, you can lock us down, that's fine, but I'm not going to do it?
It's a mixed bag. It's probably like everywhere in the world. You see people who are awake to the agenda to a degree, and there's people who just go along. There's people here also who have been standing their ground for 2 years, and now their psyche is breaking down, because this is what this is all about. Okay, what is really going on with this agenda? What this agenda truly is a spell on the mind. When you take the big picture perspective, of the 21st century imposition of control. It started with 9/11, and as your dad rightly called his book, The Trigger. What does a trigger relate to? It relates to mind control programming, programming the mind and putting a spell on the mind. And COVID was the next step along that, of programming the mind of subordination to a priest class of Satanism that cannot handle sovereign beings that say, I'm not only going to not comply with you, but I'm going to command what is going to happen next, because I am a child of the earth. I am a child of the source that created me. I am a child that came here to not do any of that bullshit that you impose on me. I came here to manifest paradise on earth with my brothers and sisters, and no one is going to tell me otherwise. This is the power that I strongly recommend to give forward to people, to stand in our power and really see that it is all a lie. Everything, the breakdown of the food supply and food shortages and all that. We live on a planet of abundance. The thing is that they impose such a tunnel vision on us that there's no way of escaping this. Even if you're following the alternative media, there's going to be food shortages. It has to get worse until it gets better. No! Right here in Austria, we're right on the cusp of something extraordinary. And that's why I'm so happy to speak with you about this, because I just want to see finally freedom be manifested as soon as possible. And I just have that feeling in my heart. We're just on the cusp of that.
I sincerely hope you're right. When you said there, like, there's some people have kind of, that they've been, you know, holding a line and they've been standing firm for 2 years nearly, and obviously it's getting a little bit too much for them, and maybe some people are kind of struggling. Are you seeing it the other way around? So people that have complied for 2 years and that have, okay, I'll go along, yeah, okay, I'll get a second jab, okay, I'll wear a mask, that are now starting to go, do you know what, actually, I'm done. And do you think then that will manifest in increased protests and more regular protests?
Absolutely, it will. And as I said, you see, protest is one form of action. And it's a clear sign and it's a threat display. It's powerful. However, what I also go into my videos is there a next step away from the protests? And this is something that I've seen also in England a lot. People putting notices of liability to people that think they can impose anything. This is, you see, where last year, when I served a notice of liability to the Austrian president, Alexander van der Bellen, this is what gets the attention of the dark occult I see now. Because we are right in communication and diplomacy with the network that controls Austria. This is not some pipe dream that I'm having and hoping that it manifests. We are actually in the middle of it. And the notice of liability, the responsibility, is the key issue, because none of these puppets that they place, and also the network itself, none of them take responsibility. So in actual fact, they have no power. The only thing that we've been seeing on this planet is abuse of power. When we take responsibility and say, well, you want to impose that on me, here is a notice of liability, and if you want to impose a mask order, that costs you 369 million euros, Mr. Mayor of any state, or you can write this to anyone, because you determine your price tag. And the reason why I'm saying this outrageous figure is that these people only understand the language of money. They're too dumb to understand anything else. And this is the way we push back, and we've seen a lot of this in England, and this is going to make all the difference, because suddenly people realize, oh yes, we all have responsibility. And now what this is all about now is we go into the new paradigm, what most people talk about, the new earth. Now, the question that I ask is, how do you know you're in the new paradigm? Because it's a state of perception, as your father explains. How do you know you're in the new paradigm? By knowing what ended the old paradigm. And what ended the old paradigm is that the realization we all have responsibility. Once we take that on, it is game over for them. And this is what we're experiencing right now. They have nothing on us. They can't do anything. I'm not in fear of my life, but we're taking the entire control structure down, because Satanism cannot live in light of the principles that this reality is governed by, which is free will, which is that the intelligence of the heart trumps mind control and mind intelligence. And
Absolutely.
this is what they can't run away from. And therefore, we're in charge now because we take responsibility.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen. Really appreciate it. And thanks for everything you're doing over there in Austria.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure.